Hello everybody, Andy here. Let's get talking. Warhammer Plus just did a battle report on the new Nightmare box just yesterday. So I'm going to talk about it. Now they always do this kind of before a big release, and every time they do a new rule or use a weapon, they flash up the rule or the weapon stat. So we're going to be looking at that. There you go. Because that's fun. Hey, if you want to see me talk about the balanced stage slate that also happened yesterday, well, I actually did a live stream for that instead of a pre-recorded video, which is what I normally do. If you want to watch that, good luck, because YouTube, I swear, makes it impossible to find past live streams. But I did do that. There you go. Cool. All right. Oh, and if you want to watch me actually do a react to the Warhammer Plus battle report, I did do that, but that's for patrons only. It is not a good way to watch the battle report, just to be clear. I full on stop it. It is double the length of the battle report because I hate react content, and so I make sure that it is not a good way to watch the battle report. All right, let's talk about Night Lords first, then we're going to talk about the Mandrakes. I've taken, I think, every rule that they throw up there. Don't know, let's discuss. First up, we have In Midnight Clad. This is the ability of the team, okay? So every model gets this. When determining if a friendly Nemesis Claw operative is in an enemy operative's line of sight, that friendly operative is obscured if all of the following are true. It has a conceal order, it's within 1 inch of terrain, it's more than 6 inches from enemy operatives it's visible to. Cool, perfect, good. This is... well, it's super obscure, but it's super concealed, but in a slightly different way. So the way in which this is different is basically when you are obscured or super obscured, sorry, not obscured. When you have conceal or super conceal, you still need the enemy's cover line to cross a piece of terrain for your super conceal to take effect. This is conceal, and it says nothing at all about line of sight. You have to be simply within 1 inch of heavy or light terrain, that means all terrain, or underneath a vantage point. Yeah, so this means on a standard Octarius map, you will be permanently concealed. The only thing removing that being within 6 inches of the enemy. Also, obviously, watch out for enemy snipers or Auspex or whatever that can remove obscuring. Cool. Nice. This feels strong. There's a lot of rules to cover, so I don't want to spend too long on each rules, but as this is the ability, let's discuss, I suppose. This means you are an elite team with super conceal. I think a lot of people already know how an elite team, well, how a team with super conceal feels, and that's because we have gene stealers. And yeah, pretty good. I like this. I think this will make the team very resilient. As we go through the rest of this team, you are going to see that they are very solidly a melee team. So you need to get into melee, and this allows you to get into melee. We go to Nightmare Manifest, shoot twice, fight twice. However, without the normal stipulation, which is you can shoot twice if you don't fight, or you can fight twice if you don't shoot. That's not here. This is 1 CP. You can do any mixture you want of shooting and fighting, as long as one of these shoot actions is with a bolt gun, a bolt weapon, sorry. This means you could throw a grenade and then still shoot a bolt pistol, or more likely, if there is a heavy bolter option as a heavy gunner, which we believe there would be, we don't see it in the battle report, but we assume, you can double tap with that, which is obviously huge. However, again, this is a melee team, so don't expect to be shooting twice regularly. We then go to Prey Sight, which is, until the end of the turning point, when determining line of sight from each enemy operative, enemy operatives within 6 inches of it are treated as having an engage order unless they are in cover from heavy terrain, which means, assuming it's not heavy terrain, so light terrain only, really, you have an indirect weapon. It's only within 6 inches, so when are you really using this? It's really hard to say, because honestly, currently in the meta, we play on very heavy, dense boards. So are you going to use this too often? No, but maybe it's going to come up, right? Nice. Either way, the ability to give your whole team indirect weapons within 6 is pretty good. We have come for you. When you charge, if it's the charge the first thing you do, D3 mortals. We don't know every single stat from the Night Lords team yet. We didn't get to see all of them. However, this is to me, this is the strat ploy. This is the strat ploy that you play every turn, well, after the first turn. Turn 2, 3, 4, you play We Have Come For You. This is team defining. This tells you how you are playing the game. There are no 7-hit weapons on the team, but there are 2 6-hit. When they roll a crit, they get 6 damage, which means you are able to turn both of those by default into a 7-hit weapon on the crit, which means you are one-shotting 7-wound teams. However, more importantly than that, this is a damage buff for the entire team, and the way it's going to come up more often in your games is going to be you are going to take a regular team from, or most teams, from needing 3 hits to kill to only needing 2 hits to kill, and that is incredibly strong for your elite team. You play this every turn, apart from turn 1. Disconcerting Mimicry. You know the guy that has the dead space marine on a pole? This is his ability, okay? So you can use each of these once per game. Pick a model within 6. Subtract 1 from its APL. Change its order. Perform a free dash action, and you get to decide where that dash is. Now, actually, I really liked what they did here, so this is quite cool. You know, Warhammer Plus, right? I don't know if the presenters are actually good gamers or if they're just like there for the riz, if you will. However, they actually did a really cool action with this. So we'll see in a moment that you have the ability to, you know, poison an objective, and so he actually used this free dash action to move the enemy not only into the open so that he could then shoot it with the next operative, but onto a poisoned objective, so he got poisoned. So it was really cool. Change its order is an obvious one. Change their order so that you can then shoot them with other operatives. Subtract 1 from its APL. Yeah, really good. Obviously. But yeah, that free dash action is the standout, I think. And also, I hope that we see more moving of the enemy's operatives in general. I like that. I think that's a good thing. Vox Scream. Use this attack ploy when your opponent would activate an enemy operative. Your opponent cannot activate that operative in this activation. Cool. So this is the classic, right? You go out for a big push against the enemy's plasma or whatever, their gunner, but you fluff the roll, and you know that means first activation, they win initiative, they're going to kill you because you're right next to their plasma. Vox Scream shuts that down. Really nice. Prescience. So this is your leader's ability. The leader is called a visionary, which is just a cool ass name, so that's awesome. And they have pre-science. I like the idea that prescience is actually just the word pre in science. So it's like before we had science, we had prescience, which is made up bullshit. Which is once in each strategy phase, when it's your turn to use a strat ploy or pass, you can use this ability instead. If you do so, add D3 prescience tokens to your pool. Your prescience tokens are spent on abilities on this data card, which I assume we then get to see. No. Oh dear. Okay, so there were 3 things. You know what? They're probably going to come up. If they don't, we'll come back to them. Can we do it? No. We'll do it now. So the first thing you could do was... oh yeah, good question. You could add 1 CP. So you're guaranteed one of these every turn. You could just straight up say, I get a CP. The other thing you could do was, I want to say you could remove an attack dice. So it's not just, this ability happened in the game, I promise. You could remove an attack dice from the enemy's pool, which then suddenly obviously made you like super tanky. And there was a third ability, which I can't remember. Great stuff. As we go, maybe it will come to me. We then have a guy, I can't remember what his name, they all had stupid names, to be clear. He's the poison guy. There you go. He's toxic, just like your ex-boyfriend. So, poison objective, 1 AP. I already mentioned this earlier, obviously. Select 1 objective marker this operative controls that doesn't have a Terra Chem token. Oh, yeah. In this one paragraph, they say Terra Chem token like 4 times. So select an objective that doesn't have a token. Put an objective on that token. When the enemy stands on that objective, they gain the Terra Chem token. There you go. That's it. That's what this says. So the objective loses it, and then they gain it. However, they also suffer D3 mortals, and they gain that Terra Chem token. Hopefully, we then see what the Terra Chem token does. Terra Chem poison. In the ready operative step of each initiative phase, enemy operatives with a Terra Chem token suffer D3 mortals. Cool. So you stand on that, you take that Terra Chem token from the objective, you take D3 mortals. Next time you activate, you take D3 mortals. Like, really strong, really strong. It does cost an AP to Terra Chem poison that objective, but honestly, nice. Really good. We then go over to the Mandrakes. Yeah. Let's see if we can find out the I'm gonna start from this side. Here we go. Let's move that to there. We can come back to that. All right. So we need to know Soul Strike. So they have several what seem to be like baked-in abilities. Yeah. So basically, they seem to have ranged weapons which have a unique special rule which is called Soul Strike. You cannot use an invuln save. Instead, you are saving against your APL, which is a cool idea. So, and then you have to roll your APL number or lower. Okay, so if you are APL 2, you have to roll a 2 or a 1 to save. If you're APL 3, you have to roll a 3, a 2, or a 1. And in this instance, 1s become crits. So what this means, in essence, to kind of flip it around for you, if you are APL 2, then you basically have a 5-up save. And if you are APL 3, you basically have a 4-up save. Cool. But that's just so you know for stats purposes. In reality, you're rolling lower. So rolling 1s is good. Maybe we can actually make some armor saves now. Love it. We then have umbral entities. So you always have a 5-up invuln. If you are within shadow, which we will cover in a moment, you have a 4-up invuln save instead. We have Shadow Passage. Oh, we will cover what in shadow is, don't worry. We then have Shadow Passage, which obviously, as soon as you hear, you think, well, I've got to make a joke about, I want to be in your shadow. Right. So, for 1 AP, if this operative is within shadow, perform a free normal move action. But instead of moving it, remove it from the kill zone and set it back up again within shadow, but not within engagement range nor line of sight of enemy operatives. Do note it says line of sight, not visibility. So you can be there just as long as you're behind cover. So, also you can't make shooting attacks, and note that this has been a normal move, so you cannot then charge afterwards. So if you do this, you're not doing anything else aggressive in the turn, but yeah. So what is within shadow? An operative is within shadow if any of the following are true. It is within 1 inch of a heavy part of a terrain feature that isn't lower than it. This means if you're above on a vantage point, you're not getting this. Any part of its base is underneath a vantage point, or it is within 1 inch of a shadow portal token. Nice. So, do note that within shadow doesn't inherently do anything in itself. Just because you are within shadow doesn't mean anything. However, they then have everything that we've seen for this faction keys off of being within shadow, which is fine. That's just the way they've decided to split it out. But note that I seem to recall one of their ploys referenced if the enemy is within shadow. So this isn't just something that you as the Mandrake player need to know. Your opponent also needs to know what within shadow means. Long story short, if you're within 1 inch of heavy terrain, you're in shadow. That's the quickest way to think of it. And that seems to be it. That's all of their abilities. So just to give you a very quick bit of reference there. So if you can move anywhere on the board once per turn. Instead of a normal move, you can pick one guy and they can just say, I'm going to be the other side, literally the other side of the board now. In fact, we even saw the Mandrake player do it in the battle report. And he keyed it really nicely with a secondary objective that needed him to be in the enemy's deployment zone. So he just did that. He just normal moved, turn one, scored in the enemy's deployment zone. pretty good. We then go to Haunting Focus. Once in each strategy phase, when it's your turn to use a strategic ploy or pass, you can use this ability instead. If you do so, select one enemy operative for this operative to focus on until the end of the turning point. This is, again, they all have stupid names. This is one of the operative's abilities on their data sheet. When your opponent would activate that enemy operative, if this operative is ready, you can activate this operative first. If you do so during that activation, you cannot select any other enemy operatives as targets for combats or shooting attacks made by this operative while that enemy operative is in the kill zone. So what they did in the Warhammer Plus Bat Rep here is the guy that has this ability, can't remember his name, he's probably called Shadowy McDarkser or whatever, I don't know. Used Haunting Focus every single turn in the strategy phase on the enemy leader, on the Night Lords leader, the Visionary. And so every time the Visionary said, I'm going to do this guy, it's my leader now, this guy would get to do his thing first. This honestly seems really good. Yeah. You get to kind of pre-counter whatever the enemy's leader is going to do, which is really nice. It seems strong. When they get Gloaming Shroud, until the end of the turning point, each time a shooting attack is made against a friendly Mandrake operative within Shadow, again, you always have to be within Shadow to use anything on this team, it seems. In the roll defense dice step of that shooting attack, before rolling your defense dice, you can retain 1 as a successful normal save without rolling it, in addition to cover. So you just get this if you're within cover, but you don't actually need to be in cover. Sorry, you need to be in darkness, yes. So if you're in cover and in darkness, then you would retain 2. Very nice. Soul Harvest. Again, this is one of their abilities. Each time an enemy operative is incapacitated as a result of this operative's part collector ability or Bale Blade, including as a result of its Reap critical hit roll. Yeah, from memory, this guy had he had a crazy weapon. It had so many special rules on it. Yeah. Add 1 of your Soul Harvest tokens to your pool, or 2 if that enemy operative had an APL characteristic of 3 or more. Each time a friendly operative is activated, you can spend 1 of your Soul Harvest tokens to either add 1 to that operative's APL until the end of the battle, or have it regain D6 lost wounds. You can spend your Soul Harvest tokens even if this operative has been incapacitated. So, if you get a kill, you get a Soul Harvest token. If you kill a Marine, you get 2 Soul Harvest tokens. This is where we kind of see that little bit of Eldari in the Mandrakes. So obviously Eldari, we consider them to be a 2.5 APL team, except not the Mandrakes. The Mandrakes don't have any weird shenanigans like that. Their shenanigans are all based around being in shadows, except for this one ability that we've seen so far, which is indeed get a kill and then you can make somebody 3 APL for the rest of the game. And that has to be pointed out very clearly. Normally, we've had to have it drilled into us that when you get plus or minus 1 APL, it is until the end of your next activation. This is the only ability so far in the game that gives you plus 1 APL for the rest of the game. So this genuinely makes you an APL 3 team, which is really cool. Well, an APL 3 model, sorry. It's a nice idea. I like it. Cool. Yeah, so this is then the weapon that I was talking about there that has this ability. Bale Blade, 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, 5/6, brutal, lethal 5, reap 2. This is obviously just huge. Yep. Lethal 5 is good. That's going to pair nicely with the reap 2. 4 attacks, not great. Hitting on 3s, fine, expected. Yeah, but I mean, if this was 5 attacks, it'd be a bit nuts. So this makes sense. Cool. Good weapon. Then get Inescapable Nightmare. Until the end of the turning point, each time a friendly Mandrake operative within Shadow, again, you always have to be within Shadow, fights in combat or makes a shooting attack, and you roll attack dice step of that combat or shooting attack, you can re-roll 1 of your attack dice. If you're within Shadow, you can re-roll an attack dice. Nice. Finally, I believe this is the final. Yes, Blade in the Dark. Until the end of the turning point, each Mandrake operative, friendly Mandrake operative that has... Until the end of the turning point, friendly Mandrake operatives that have a conceal order can perform the charge action if they start and or end that action within Shadow. Cool, very nice. Charge from conceal. We already know how strong charging from conceal can be, thanks to commandos. So cool that you can do it for a CP as a strat ploy. Makes a lot of sense, especially for this team. Like, I'm almost surprised. Like, I imagine in the grand scheme of things, if they were redoing the entire game, the Commando's ability would become the Mandrake ability, right? Like, you know, I'm just saying it should be default, but it's 1 CP, that's good enough. I'm not actually complaining here. I'm just saying it's so kind of, it makes so much thematic sense for the team to be able to charge from conceal. And that's it. That's everything we learned. Wow. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to say basically what I said after watching the whole thing. Like, how do I think the teams are going to play? I think, I said exactly the same straight after watching it to my patrons. I think it's, okay, so based on the battle report, I'm going to say I have no idea. 2 brand new teams, one of which brings a whole entire new core rule to the game when it comes to In Shadows, because both of you have to be aware of it. An entire new movement system to the game. D3 morsels on the charge, so 2 teams we don't know on some of the worst terrain in the game. Oh, sorry, in the battle report, they used a narrative rule as well, which is something about, like, the oceans killing you or whatever. So it's like, so I don't think we should look at the battle report and say, look at this, isn't that crazy? Again, I think they did some cool, interesting things in that battle report, like the dashing onto the poisoned objective, that sort of thing. That was really cool, and I think that shows a lot about the presenters, the players, and also the teams. But I don't think we should take the battle report itself too seriously. However, just looking at the rules on the page, I have no idea how the Mandrakes are going to play, to be honest with you. Again, I would have to see them played on Octarius. Not because Octarius is the be-all end-all, although it probably is, to be fair, but just because I'm familiar with Octarius and I could gauge a power level easier on that than on Beta Decima. I mean, what is Beta Decima? You know, it's bollocks. But then also, like, yeah, so I don't know about Mandrakes, really. I think average, there you go. But they have movement shenanigans, so that normally means if they have movement shenanigans that they're going to be able to be played well by better players. But they're Eldar, so they're a little bit glass cannony, so they're going to die easily. So, yeah. Just the fact that Night Lords have Super Obscure and D3 Mortals on the charge, I'm going to say they're going to be a really strong team. Yes, there you go. I think Night Lords are going to do really well for the rest of the edition, which is like another 6 months tops. And I think Mandrakes are going to sit squarely in the middle, and that's fine. That's good. I don't have an issue with them, with one team being top tier and one being average. Seems good. Of course, this is also all coming from the person who, after the Kroot Farstalkers got their first buff, I said, these guys are going to be OP. These guys are going to be top tier. They're going to be broken. This is too much, GW. What have you done? Sometimes you get things wrong. Anyway, yeah, that's rules. That's Kill Team rules. This has been fun, hasn't it? Thanks for watching. See you again later. Bye.